Hey, welcome to the Innovator's Mindset with Starr Sackstein and Alex Laing. Laing with an I. I got you. All right. I'm like super pumped. We were just having a really great conversation about Starr and Alex's new book, Solving School Challenges, the Everything Guide to Transformative Change. And by the way, just for everyone listening, if you're watching this on YouTube, I know Alex has Alexandra on her page, but I asked her before. She said, "Call me Alex." So just don't think I'm rude, right, Alex? Give me the
Everybody, yes, everyone calls me Alex. I'm
okay,
Alex.
because I don't want him going like, "Why was he saying Alex the whole time?" It says Alexandra, right? So I'm like just kind of hearing about this book. I know that it is very timely. I know a lot of people are going to really appreciate this. And this, by the time you're listening to this, when is the date for this to come out? I'm looking at. It's not March 31st. It's before
It's
then, right?
March. It was supposed to be February 21st, 31st. Jesus Christ.
28.
Oh,
February
okay.
March
Go, I did
31st.
already. Bloop. It's coming out right away. So this will actually, here's what I'll tell you. You are listening to this, it's available. Okay. So that's what I'm telling you. So when this is published, so you can actually check out the book in the link down below on the description. But hey, let's actually start. You've been on the podcast before. So I'm giving you the brief intro. You get a little brief. Alex, you go first. Alex, tell us who you are, what you do, how you got there today.
Sure. Yeah. Hi, everyone. I am Alexandra or Alex Lang. Um, and I've been in education in the education sector realm for nearly 20 years now. Was a middle school science teacher, elementary everything teacher, worked at a district central office as a STEM, K-12 STEM instructional specialist. Found my way to the Albert Einstein Distinguished Educator Fellowship, worked in the US Congress for a year and handled Senator Jackie Rosen's education and STEM portfolio, which helped me really get a broader view of education from all sorts of different angles I didn't even know existed. Started my doctorate, went through that process, worked for a ed nonprofit around the nation, and then jumped into higher ed and managed a research component in a higher institution. Right now, though, I am
Done one or
a
two things.
volunteer.
You've done one or
Yeah,
two
yeah,
things.
just a couple things. Right now, though, I'm a volunteer with the Peace Corps. So I'm actually
Wow.
in Belize, partnered with the Ministry of Education here and supporting their countrywide STEAM education infrastructure at all levels.
Or
So
I feel like
individual
you need
book
a
is
Belize
forthcoming.
background. I feel like you
Yeah.
need a Belize background.
I should have like palm trees back here.
Yeah, like that kind of. I didn't know you were in Belize right now. The
Yeah.
She's got
Yeah.
some chickens that make some noise back
I
there too.
do have I do have a
good to know.
rooster in the yard. I've got a dog, guard dog in the yard. Yeah, it's
Do
very
they
Belizean.
hang? The dog and the rooster? Do they hang out or?
No, they look at each other through the fence though.
Okay.
And the rooster does side eye me in the mornings, but that's because he's just checking, he's making sure everybody's safe. But yeah, that's me. That's a little bit of my background.
And start. I want you to introduce yourself briefly, but you like you're here on here every time you have a new book, so you're like every 3 months you're here. Right? That's kind of the thing, right?
It kind of feels a
The
little
last
bit
time
like,
you were here, what was the? I remember because we talked about portfolios.
yep,
Talk about
the
that book, and you can check out
student-led
that book as well too, right? So
student-led assessment with ASCD, which is about portfolio and conferences. That's a year ago already. That was in January of 2024.
yeah, well,
So
it's
of
not,
course
like
there's
don't
two
like
more
now you're
books.
making me feel bad. Oh, it's like a year ago. Yeah, like do you know people don't typically write a book every year? I don't know if you know that. Oh,
Alex
it's
is
a
actually
year.
helping
It's
me with
so
the
long
next one when
ago.
it's coming too. I'm
Yes.
working with Michael McDowell on like an in the moment playbook for assessment. And Alex is helping with that one too.
Well, hey, good to know that Star writes books like I write blog posts. So there you go. Once once a year. No, I actually write every
Yeah.
week, but I'm just
I'm in a different place now too, though. So I'm currently working with Educators Rising and as the Massachusetts state coordinator for helping them bring a more diverse educator workforce into their state by building a education pathway for students who are interested in education.
I love it. I love it. Okay, so let's talk about the book, Solving School Challenges, which I don't know, like I don't know if this is relevant because is there anything is there any challenges going on in school right now? It's like pretty easy, right? So
Just a couple.
yeah, just a couple. Okay, so and actually you're I think you're marked 10, right? 10 that you're looking
10
at.
big
And
buckets.
so tell us a little bit like uh, obviously this is a super timely book. There's a lot of things going on in education and you gave me a brief overview of some of the initiatives that you're focusing on which are very accurate. Like so I don't even know if I want to ask why you wrote the book because it's kind of obvious because people need support. But how did you bring the book together? Like, how did you identify those challenges that you wanted to focus on? Because I'd love to say there's only 10, but
There,
you focused on
Oh,
10 specifically. How did
well,
you come to
we
those
focus
challenges?
on
it,
53.
there
There
are
are
Okay,
53.
53.
There are 53 problems we're trying to solve, but
gotcha.
10 chapters, they're
Mm,
like bucketed together into
gotcha.
10 big like categories of
Yes.
ideas.
Yes.
5.3 a chapter? Is that how you did it?
No,
Exactly.
yeah,
Exactly. 5.3 a chapter.
Right. My brain was
Um,
like, how did you do it equally though?
it's
Right. It's got to be
It's
easy
not
number.
equal. It's
it's
not
not
equal
equal.
I
because
gotcha.
some of the chapters are dealing with like sometimes there's more challenges in some areas than others. So, like in our chapter about retention, there's 5 challenges in that one. But in our chapter about
Well,
initiatives
mine
and innovations,
that's
which
like,
is like all about the things that are going on in schools, I think we have 8 in that chapter. So it changes. Each chapter is a little bit different with how they're sorted out, but we essentially sat down, Starr and I, and our other co-authors, Tiffany and Marianne,
Mhm.
and we had a couple other friends who were sort of part of the brainstorm in the background. Abby French was in our brainstorm, and
Lindsay
Lindsay
Prendergast.
Prendergast was in our brainstorm. And we all had met together through the Worthy Educators, which was part of ASCD. Um, we were Ed champions before they became the Worthy Educators now. And we had sat down and just started talking about how do we take the collective brilliance of the people we know, the people we've learned from, and how do we turn that into a solution oriented process. And we did a big brain dump. Honestly,
Mhm.
we just sort of sat there on a Zoom call and said, I struggle with this and I struggle with this and this is something I faced. And we came up with these 53 different challenges. And then it was just a process of sorting and figuring out how can we have things sort of go together in a way that can help speak to the things that people struggle with in schools.
Yeah, it start like one of the things that you said to me is that these aren't just your ideas to solve. You talk to a lot of people that are currently doing this.
Yes.
So talk about that process because one of the things that and I publish books, one of the things that we always tell our authors is like, don't make this just you because someone will say, well, that's you in this context, so it won't work for me. So then you have to kind of spread it out and show like, hey, these ideas actually work here in this context. You do have to like modify them a bit. So how did you like find those people and like why was that so important to you to kind of help go through their lens of providing some of those solutions?
So twofold, right?
Mhm.
First of all, education's at an all-time low right now with the way that like this, when we started brainstorming this idea, it was like on the heels of COVID, people hate educators. They don't think we do anything useful, it felt like at the time. And we knew that that was clearly not the case and knew a lot of people who were doing really, really excellent things, some of which were not as public as others. And I know that in the other books that I've written, the hacks in action, the things like you were just saying, the things that contextualize certain things with solutions are really what people look for when they're looking for practical things in the books that they read. So we wanted to have a book that gave you solutions, but also elevated education, people who are doing great things.
Mhm.
And they were tested things that we knew worked because and what's crazy is Alex and I had this crazy spreadsheet while we were putting this whole thing together. So we even thought about, is this a rural school? Is this a public
Mhm.
school? Is this a
Sure.
private school? Is this in the city? Is this in the suburbs? So like we tried to really make sure that solutions had realistic answers that came from people who lived in all of those contexts. So if I am a New York City public school teacher or a leader that runs a school that has very specific issues for an urban environment, I can open up to that chapter and see solutions from other people in urban environments that I can now reach out to because they have done this before and they have a system that works. And we're really proud of that. We had 107 contributors with solutions. And for every single solution we offer, you either get at least one specific person or story or school or research that supports it. So none of these solutions are just like, I just dreamed this up out of nowhere and try this, even though no one else has ever tried it ever. And we just think it's going to be a great idea. And every single chapter and every single solution also has a call to action. So there are actionable steps you could take to make sure the solution is appropriate for you and your context.
Do you know my math
It's like
Oh, sorry, Alex. Go ahead, please.
Oh, I was just gonna say it's like the TED Talk version of solving a challenge, right? Like
Love it.
each one that you go to, you get a quick snippet takeaway with things that you can turn around and go do right now. And we definitely don't have every voice that could have been in the book, right? Like our network, we reached out to our people we knew.
I definitely asked you, George. You were busy.
Yeah, I think you were busy, George.
There's a lot of people who are not being asked.
But one of the things I love about the book actually is we recognize that we don't have, this is not a comprehensive like solution bank. There are plenty of other ways that people have solved these challenges. And so one of the pieces of the book is there's a QR code and a form that people can say, hey, I had this challenge and here's how I solved it differently too. So we can continue to elevate the voices of the collective. So it's something that's so beautiful because it's telling people's stories all around the nation and really sharing the good work that they're doing in the way that they said, yeah, that doesn't have to be a problem. Like we can solve that.
We were talking about this before the pod. Well, I was talking about it. I don't want to out you too for this because one of the things that drives me crazy is people fighting online, getting in fights about education and stuff like that. Show me what you're doing that's good. Like that makes me want to. If I see you fighting, I'm just like, it doesn't tell me anything about your school. So there's a lot of people that are giving great solutions, finding, and creating amazing schools. I want to hear those stories. That's what I want to hear about. And like, show me what I could have when we go to this school, not like why I shouldn't go somewhere else. That to me, so I really appreciate that. I was going to say my math brain, you're like, you have 53 challenges and you had 107 contributors. So there's a little, I'm just saying,
there are multiple solutions for each problem.
It's just like half. Do you know what I mean? I'm saying it's like you needed 106 exactly. I'm like, what happened to 107? Where you get 53, 107, right? You almost like everyone got half except someone did.
The four of the authors, we also like contributed some of our own stories. So
it's like my own thing.
Technically, we're at 111 if you count us.
Oh, now you're just messing math up. All right, okay. Okay, so here's what I want to ask you about specifically. So I want to hone in on retention. So tell me a little bit about that chapter, maybe one of the strategies or solutions that somebody found in their own community or one that you all shared. Give me a little bit about retention so that people kind of get a preview of like what one of the chapters would be.
So first of all, every chapter starts the same way and ends the same way. We have a comic. Marianne's an artist. So there's a comic that kind of takes a humorous jab at what the problem is with all the crazy stuff teachers and educators have to do.
Right.
So you start with that grounding. Then there's like an overview of the whole chapter that kind of explains what the problem is in context. And then you have each of the problems, and the problem is short and the solution is the bulk of what's going on. So the first one, for example, is diversity, like hiring practices, making sure that we have a nice, diverse, representative staff.
This is on the retention one you're talking about?
Yes, in the in getting people to stay.
Yeah,
in that chapter.
Right, it's getting people to stay. And then so there's hiring practices, teacher retention, leader retention, staff retention, and student enrollment. Those are the 5 major problems that we're seeking to solve. And under each one of those problems, we have then maybe 6, like maybe anywhere between 3 and 10 solutions that fit under that heading. And one for pipeline growth is like the job. It's actually, this was before I got my job at PDK doing this. And so James Lane and John Hedren, who work with that organization, submitted stuff about the program itself and the things that they have done to help grow your own teacher pipelines in school districts and different ways that you could cultivate students in your community. Because research suggests that most teachers work within 20 miles of where they end up teaching within 20 miles of where they actually went to school.
Oh, wow, really?
Yep. And on our call yesterday, while we were celebrating the launch, a friend of mine, Mark Erlenwine, who is a principal at Staten Island Tech, he actually was a student there, and so was several people on his staff. So it's kind of amazing when you think about just the way that we build these really special communities that people become a part of.
All right, Alex. So this book is obviously we're facing tons of issues in education, and I really appreciate that you're really solution focused. Who should be reading this book? Like, where is the group that you're targeting? Is this for teachers, administrators, a little bit of everybody? How did you position it?
So we wrote it for the leader, but we also recognize that the leader doesn't necessarily have to have the title. So teachers in the classroom are leaders in their own right. And so we wanted to write the book so that teachers could pick it up and say, ooh, this is something I could employ in my class, with my team, with my grade level. But we also wrote it so that leaders, whether it's a principal or a superintendent, or even somebody at a state leadership level or a national leadership level, could pick it up and say, this is something that could apply across the board and this could help me. So we tried to include voices from all of those respective levels. We have teachers who are currently in the classroom. We have principals who contributed. We have superintendents who contributed. We have leaders from state organizations, from nonprofits. So we tried to bring all of those voices into the space because it's for the leader. But the leader is, if you are in education, you are a leader. In fact, even our students are leaders sometimes. So we wanted to bring that leadership lens because leadership is what helps to promote that transformative change. And it's what helps to facilitate that long-term growth. It's really kind of grounded in that growth mindset approach, where just because this is something that we're struggling with right now, that doesn't mean it has to be something we continue to struggle with. And so it's for the leader, but the leader is all of us, in our opinion, I think is the right way to say it.
We always felt like too, like teachers read up, but leaders don't necessarily read down, if that makes sense.
Yep.
So like I'm thinking though, like the data chapter is very applicable to teachers. There are some really solid solutions on how to use data effectively from formative and summative sort of lenses, not just at the school-wide lens, but also at the PLC level lens. And the same thing with grading practices, although we acknowledge that grading is something that is often institutionalized in schools. There's autonomy in classrooms, and so thinking about different ways to assess and think about student learning. And then there's our final chapter, which I think you and I were like really the most proud of. It departs is an epilogue of like a reimagining of what school can be if the stars are aligned and we're able to get to those best practices for kids in those space. So like we try to imagine what that would look like for folks who could get there, and then we'll come work at that school when they make it to that.
That imagination though, that came from the stories that were contributed to the book about how people had solved. So we were so inspired by the way that individuals had iterated through these challenges, and we kind of captured all of those in that epilogue and described how all of those individuals have said, this is school. Like, this is how students learn, and this is how teachers feel valued, and this is how leadership can challenge something that's not working. And so we lovingly call it the everything guide, because we feel like it's dealing with everything. But yeah.
I love it. Something I'm really passionate about, and I say this all the time in the groups I work with, is that when you complain about a problem, when you're done complaining, still a problem. Only actions lead to solutions. And I think you're focused on giving people actions that, you know, they can implement, but also have been implemented elsewhere and have helped them move forward. I don't think anything is like, hey, you do this one thing, all your problems will be solved. But you have to continuously, you know, look at how do we think differently about this. And one of the things I really appreciate that you just shared is if you think leadership is something someone else's responsibility, then no one's going to actually do it. And so it is like, hey, what can I do in my part of the world? So I love this. I'm excited for your book. As I said, you can check it out now. It is Solving School Challenges, the Everything Guide to Transformative Change by Starr Sackstein and Alexandra Laing.
You got it.
Right. Who also goes
by and Mary DeRosa.
Oh, right. And then with Mary DeRosa
and Tiffany Turner Hall.
And a whole bunch of contributors, basically everyone except for me. So I got it.
Might be mentioned though. I think.
Listen, I already knew. I met you all. Like I saw you at FETC, and then you're like, "Say we're going to AJ session." So I get it. I get it.
No, you are referenced. You're referenced.
Oh, I am.
Yeah, for sure.
All right.
Well,
just wait. Hold on a second. I got reference. Self air horn.
It really speaks to the greatness, right? It's like the greatness that's around us.
Whatever. I'm just joking. There's so many brilliant people. So I'm glad you tapped into so many people. Check out the book. It is down in the link below. Thank you both for being on the podcast. Thank you so much for being here today. I hope you have a wonderful day.